This is Between the Brackets, a Mediawiki podcast, episode 30, March 19th, 2019. Welcome to Between the Brackets. I'm Yaron Koren, and my guest for this episode is Jens Steckhan, who runs the wiki SAPedia for the German enterprise software company SAP. Now, I've obviously interviewed people from a lot of different wikis on this show, but in all the previous cases, there's been some paper trail, so to speak, for that wiki. Either the wiki was public, or you could find talks by the people behind that wiki online, or in some cases, there have been news reports, etc. In the case of SAPedia, a web search on it reveals just about nothing. Neither Jens nor anyone else involved with SAPedia has ever spoken at a conference about it or written anything about it either, as far as I know. So I'm proud to say that everything you are about to hear now is a Between the Brackets exclusive. I feel like I need a special sound effect for that or something. Anyway, Jens, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So where do you live?
I live in Karlsruhe in Germany, and that's about 40 kilometers from SAP's headquarters in Waldorf. So that's the southwest corner of Germany.
Yes, I've been there actually.
Oh, you've been there? Oh, cool.
Yes. So, we'll get to that, to the Karlsruhe connection, I guess. I want to start with some background. What did you do before you joined SAP?
It feels like I joined SAP in the early 13th century, I've worked there forever. But actually, I studied computer science at the University of Karlsruhe. And then I did my diploma thesis at SAP, and I sort of got drawn in, and they never let me go again. So that's the story. So basically, I studied there, and I got my diploma degree there, and and then I started work at SAP.
Oh, okay. It's very interesting that you attended I guess it was the University of Karlsruhe, but then it became the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology.
Yeah, they changed the name. That's right. It's the same place.
Yeah. I don't know if you know, but the school that's now known as KIT is really the birthplace of Semantic Mediawiki, which in turn led to the whole enterprise Mediawiki ecosystem, and by extension, this podcast after several degrees of separation. Were you aware of any of that Semantic Mediawiki work when you were there?
Not when I was there, but back then, I did neural networking and parallel computing. But when I started with Mediawiki, I pretty soon stumbled upon Semantic Mediawiki, and then it all got started at Karlsruhe. And actually, I feel humbled because you interviewed the original founders of Semantic Mediawiki in this podcast, right? So
that's true. Yeah. You're the third KIT graduate on this podcast, which is so you joined SAP. I'm guessing most people who are listening to this podcast have at least heard of SAP, but for everyone's benefit, could you describe SAP and what they do?
Yeah, well, it's I think it's the biggest German software company, maybe the biggest European one, I'm not quite sure. Basically, what we do is enterprise software. So, if you do material planning or CRM and any of those things, then chances are pretty high you end up with SAP. And that's not the area where I work in, though. I started actually as a UI developer at SAP, and I did that for a couple of years, and then I got tired of it, and then I started doing customer projects. There's a special department, and they do bespoke solutions for customers. And I did project work there for a while. And when you do that, then you're thrown into a new subject area every other week. And with a new subject area, there's loads of new terms, new projects and technical acronyms and technologies that you need to know, and people and departments, etc. And that's pretty much what actually led me to starting SAPedia. Because I thought, I started writing like my own, like I had a notepad and I wrote like all these acronyms and all the important things on there. And then I started my own wiki. And I thought, like that doesn't really work very well. Like I think, like when I get anything wrong, nobody corrects me. And also my information gets dated and I'm the only person profiting from it. So we should share that.
Sure.
This should be a wiki. So that was sort of the original trigger for that.
Yeah. So back to the SAP thing. That's interesting. I guess I thought for some reason SAP. Actually, first of all, I want to ask how many people work at SAP.
I don't. Last time I checked, it was over 90,000 people.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. I thought it was all the work there involved making use of the massive amount of software that SAP owns or maintains in some way, as opposed to truly custom consulting. Was that really the case that you just went into a project without any SAP software involved, and you just did whatever the client needed?
It was most of the stuff evolved around SAP software. So you would have like an SAP system and you wanted some, I don't know, like an iOS client for it or some fancy stuff. Or like it didn't, like the standard product didn't quite do what you wanted, but like you wanted like an extension and you wanted it from the original manufacturer and you wanted it to be close to the standard development and you wanted to make sure it would still be running in 3 years' time with full warranty, etc., etc. So
Sure.
So it's still centered around what they call like ERP software, like business software. It's still pretty much in the focus of attention. But all around that, there's like the whole microcosm, like it's a whole universe of its own.
Yeah. What are examples of some of the terms that would have been helpful, would be helpful for to keep a record of?
I don't know, like it's this, it's a whole jungle like of technology. It could be something like an internal technology that just evolved, like on maybe the name of a group working at it, or it could be anything really. It could be like a name of a building that you don't know. Say like an old colleague would invite you to lunch for MPS, and you've got no idea what like MPS is, and then like you ask like an older colleague, and if you're lucky, they tell you, oh, that's the old name for like our building number 8, and you find it here on the map.
Yeah.
But you need to know that you need to know. Or
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how did the decision come to create a wiki for all of that?
First it started like as my own, like it started bothering me for quite a while, and I thought, like I'm not really like I'm an architect here, like I'm doing customer projects. It shouldn't be really me. It should be somebody else should be doing that. So I waited and I tried other people to do it, but they weren't willing. So, and in the end, my frustration got so high that I was thinking, I just started out to just do it myself. And there was another thing about it, like the lack of accessibility of certain like terms was one thing, and the other thing was also language. Like we have at SAP, we've got an internal search engine where you can find all kind of information, and often you would come across like documents, and they were written in what I would say like something like marketing speak, or like with very many buzzwords in it. Like it would say that, say you look for an explanation of a technology, and it wouldn't explain what the technology is about, but instead it would tell you that it's really disruptive and really innovative, and customers love it, and you should make full leverage of it, etc. And you read all these like paragraph after paragraph, and you still don't know what it is. So what I was looking for is a place like where you would have like neutral language, like really like an encyclopedia. And that's another thing that I started, and I didn't find that place, so I decided to start it. And it's there's a wonderful culture at SAP of like under the radar projects. Like you give them a certain amount of freedom, and you just do it on your own. And then after a while, you tell your manager, just so you know, like I'm doing this project here by the side. It won't interfere with my regular work. But just so if anybody asks you what a SAPedia is or whether you've heard about it, just say you know, and you know that I'm doing this. But it won't interfere with my regular job. I'm just doing it on top. Everybody's fine with that. And that's how we started it.
Yeah. What year was that?
Oh, that's 6 years ago.
Sorry? Say that again?
That was 6 years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was the initial reaction from other people when you set up a wiki and started populating it?
Well, very different from what I anticipated. I thought I would set up a wiki, and I would write everything that I know in it, and other people would think it's a wonderful idea, and they would start contributing,
Right.
and it would take off on its own, and everybody would love it, and I would get a promotion and become rich and famous, right?
Right.
And that was not exactly the case. So the first thing is that most of the people simply ignored it. So that was the initial reaction. And then I thought, okay, so if I really want to this thing to take off, I should probably do some kind of promotion. I should talk about it. So first of all, I started mentioning to everybody who wanted to hear about it or did not want to hear about it. So I kept repeating myself to everyone. It got on everybody's nerves. And then I started to inch my way into newsletters. And then I tried to try to promote it internally, and then tried different venues to do that. And I also started making it more findable. So in the beginning, it was just a server on its own. So I thought, okay, I want people to find it really easily. So we've got this internal search engine. So my first project was to integrate it in there. So if you look for a term in there or an acronym in there, they should find SAPedia there. So what the first thing.
Right.
And then I thought, it should be it should be very stable. It should be quick. It should be always there, right? And then soon I found out, an empty wiki, just with, 100 entries for me, it's not that attractive. So I need to give it some bait content. So I started looking for people who had collected their own list of terms and acronyms, and I started convincing them to work with me. And so we we transferred all the content into SAPedia, and then it started growing. And then after a while, we had a few thousand entries, and then it started becoming really useful for people. And they say, oh, you know what? I just stumbled across a platform, it's really useful, and can I contribute to that? Can I enter something? And I say, yeah, please do. And that's how things slowly took off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, how do you really market within a company of 10,000 people, tens of thousands of people? It's fine to have lunchtime conversations or something, but how do you reach vast numbers of people with this kind of thing? Was there emailing or
Well, for me, it was
putting up flyers.
I tried the flyers too, but we've got this sustainability policy at SAP. So I put out 10 flyers in coffee corners, and an hour later, they were all trashed because we don't do flyers at SAP. But for me, it was a learning process. I mean, I'd never done anything like that. So I thought, newsletters might be a good idea. And then after a while, I thought, okay, it might be good if I could find a patron for it, when people started questioning me, what are you doing there? And does management know of it? And do they approve? And then I thought, maybe it would be good if I could mention an important name, And then I started approaching a very senior manager, and I said, look, this is the problem I encountered. People don't find information, or they don't find terms. And I just created this platform based on Mediawiki, and people can find it. It is just really useful. A couple of hundred people are using it now, and it would be great if I could tell people that you smile upon it, that you like it. I mean, I don't want any money from you. I don't need any budget or anything. All I know from you is your nod, that you think it's a good thing. And I got that. So that helped a bit in a hierarchical organization. And then I found out about there's a news site, so I got friendly with the people who do the news site within SAP, and I sort of like sneaked my content in there. And I contacted people like who do newsletters, so I got in there as well. Then I started doing like sort of like trades with people, like I link to your site and you link to mine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so like fairly like slowly like people like it started growing, and then like when it then reached like an initial threshold, then like things took off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was like this was a process of several months. I mean, like it.
Okay. It sounded. I thought it was years.
No.
Right. Okay. So then at some point you started getting what in the US we call buy-in from senior management.
Yeah. So I talked about like there's like an internal knowledge group. So I got in touch with their manager and say, look, this is a site that I did, and I think like it really should be your area. But like since I'm doing it already, like would you like to fund me a bit? Give me some funding. And they said, yeah, why not? It's really cool what you're doing. And that's when I could start like dedicating some of my real work time. Like before that, I had done that like in the evenings and on the weekends, and I got a bit tired of it. And my wife started complaining. She said, "Yeah, Jens, like you really should be at home doing other things. Like help me doing the dishes or like make lunch or play with your kids, right? Don't do the SAPedia stuff all the time in the evenings." And I said, "Yeah, maybe she's got a point there, right?"
I don't know. From my perspective, that's you should be working on the wiki 24/7. No, yeah, sorry.
Right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and anyway, so then I got partial funding, and then like it wasn't me on my own anymore. So like I could do this in my work time. And also, I must say, there's this other thing that really blew me away. There's like this culture of mutual helpfulness at SAP. That's really great. Like people, like if you're not really under total pressure and like I don't know, like got a customer deadline coming or so, like people are really, really prepared to help you. So, so for instance, like the first thing I ran this on an old PC under my desktop. And I thought, this is not really like a professional way to do it. I should find something else. And so I got friendly like with one of the system administrators. David Green was his name, and he was super friendly. He said, "You know what? We've got this old file server idling around, and it's got nothing much to do. Why not put your instance there?" And we started doing that. And then I searched around in the company whether there was anybody else like doing anything with Mediawiki, and I found 2 students. Like they had fooled around with semantic Mediawiki a bit. And they had written their own extensions, so I met them for a cup of coffee and we got to talk, and then they practically gave me their extensions for free. They had also written like a really nice search integration with Solar Lucene, so we used that. Like our search got really lightning really, really quick after that. And so like it started like a little community started shaping itself around that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Let me see. Are there now managers who require employees to contribute to the wiki? Saying once a project is completed or a new version is released of some software or something, then you have to document it on the wiki.
No, it's still like a voluntary thing.
Okay.
So like it's one tool among many. Like I should mention, we also got the Atlassian Confluence at SAP. So like we just put it there to the side, and we said, okay, like we use Confluence more like for team, for structured knowledge, like what's really deeply structured for teams, like who want to organize themselves and stuff like that. And we use SAPedia more like an encyclopedia. Like you look for something, you've never heard of it. So we gave it like a standard structure. Like first of all, you give a first explanation what something is. And then you give like related links. Maybe you've got a wiki page about it, or you've got a GitHub page, or something like that. So you've got your links to your team, and then you've got related articles, and then maybe you've got support like a mailing list or something like a Slack channel that you could use. So we impose sort of a standard structure, and people like following that, but it's not mandatory. So just
Yeah.
like we try to sell it, as I say, okay, like if you want to make yourself known and you want people to be able to use your project and know about you, just publish an article in SAPedia and it will help you.
Yeah. I just realized I've been saying the name wrong. I thought it was SAPedia, but you called it SAPedia?
Well, sometimes I say one or the other, it doesn't really matter.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's very interesting you mentioned Confluence. I wanted to ask about that actually. What I would say the biggest competitors for Mediawiki are Microsoft SharePoint and Confluence. And then you could potentially add in other CMS software like WordPress, Drupal, etc. You mentioned Confluence. Do you use any of those others internally at SAP?
We also have SharePoint and we've got a WordPress blog, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Is there, I mean, I guess you have lines of demarcation between the different content, but is there ever any conflict where people aren't sure what to put where, or you try to argue that it should go in the wiki instead of SharePoint or something like that?
Yeah, well, we've got an official site where we say when to use what. But I think
okay.
it's pretty much how I described. Like people use SAPedia more like as an entry point. Like they say, okay, like if you've got no idea what it is, like it provides you like an initial help and it provides you some context where to go next. We created like also a little tool like where you can register yourself like as an expert for a certain subject matter. So like people can see your name there and then they could contact you, for instance. So where else like we use, I can't really speak for the other tools, like I haven't cleared this with communications, right? But I think Confluence is more like used for like really like deeper structured knowledge about something. Like you've got a team working on something and you want to say, okay, like this week, like the following guys are in charge of the hotline, and if you want to set up your internal development infrastructure, this is how you do it. And please keep in mind that I don't know, you have to set these and those environment variables, and these are the people in our neighboring team who to contact in case of emergency, etc. So like Confluence is really like for the deeper structured stuff. Whereas like we try to position SAPedia really as an encyclopedia.
Okay, I get it. I mean, all of that content in Confluence could go into MediaWiki, a wiki as well, maybe not necessarily.
Yeah, maybe SAPedia, we thought about that, but I think like they're good at certain things. Like I think the read access problem, like I think is the eternal problem, right? Like for wikis, like in enterprises, like there is for legal reasons or for other reasons, like some people prefer to have like a platform which guarantees privacy, and well, as you know, like MediaWiki isn't really meant for that. So so that I think that would be like one point why we couldn't have like the content of Confluence and like a MediaWiki instance. And the other thing is like more practical thing. Like I've seen like plenty of tools like to migrate your content from MediaWiki to Confluence, but never the other way around. Like to automate like such a migration would be like a really major effort. I think you would need to write some tools for that. I mean, like we have like a lot of content in there, and like you wouldn't want to do that by hand.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. I don't know. I guess Confluence stores its data in HTML, but I don't know how easy it is to extract the HTML. And then there are HTML2 MediaWiki syntax, wiki text tools, but I don't know how well they work.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to write something probably, right?
Like it's also a political question, right? Like you don't want to like other teams like do the other wiki. You don't want to step on their toes, etc. So you've got to you don't want to step on other people's toes, and they want to keep it like in a friendly environment. So yeah,
sure, yeah. If people are happy with the tools they're using, then it's good. So back to SAPedia. You now work on it full time. That's your full time job.
Yeah, I worked for it as a full time job. Yeah, for about I think last 4 years or so.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah. So like first, I mean, when I say like I worked for it, I also like mentored students. Like I had about like a dozen of students working on it. That was really fun. Yeah, like they really brought like great new ideas in it, like, and they were really hungry, and that was great.
Yeah.
So
Is anybody else working on it full time
there is
or part time or something?
we had one person working on it like for the ops. Like initially, like I ran the server myself, and then I got friendly like with the sysadmin. But he did that in his spare time as well. And at some point we decided, okay, we want somebody like who's I know we really want 24/7 support for that. We wanted to run, I don't know, like New Year's Eve and Christmas and whenever. We want to make sure like there's always somebody there we can contact. So right now we've got an ops team looking after the server.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the day-to-day tasks for the wiki?
Right.
Other than making sure the server's up and everything.
Well, one of the things is like we is still promoting it and trying to get more people to use it. And I think the what's always like a difficulty is like people like really write in it. I can think we got pretty much everyone at SAP to look at the SAPedia at least once. Like that's we achieved that, but we didn't really achieve like having everybody write in it. So I think like and that's always a difficult one because like most people, like you don't work here because like you write wiki pages, but you work here because you sell things or you're a programmer or you're a translator or whatever, but you're not really paid for that. And it's to motivate people, like that's one big part of the job, I would say. The other one is like also we did some kind of governance of the content. So we had some basic guidelines. One of them I mentioned already. We wanted really neutral language, and I think like if you're used to using like marketing speak all day, then it's really hard for you to write like an article in neutral language. So we would look over that, right? Or like help people like who struggle with that. Another thing is we tried to position SAPedia so that we would make other information sources available. So there are tons of like systems like which with information about SAP, internal information, but they're really hard to reach or people don't know about that. So we thought it might be cool if we could use SAPedia to integrate those data sources and show them. So we wrote like our own extensions for that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask about that. What, how much of the software powering SAPedia is custom? What kind of custom extensions do you have?
All right, well, the first one that we wrote is like for our internal search. Like back then they used like a push model, so like you had to push your content to the search index. So we did that. Then, like most of the internal tools at SAP, they had like their own like branding, so you could tell like from the visuals that it was an SAP internal tool. So the next thing that we started doing was writing like our own skin.
Right.
And then next we have like what we call a media share. That's a Kaltura server. So we wrote a little extension that you can include videos from there. We've got
cool.
Yeah, we got like our own web analytics system, like it's sort of Google Analytics, but it's internal. So we wrote like a little extension for that. Then we had, I don't know whether you heard about this, the GDPR, data privacy guideline in the European Union.
Yeah, definitely. It's come up on this podcast a few times. People have Mediawiki-based solutions for it, actually. Yeah.
Right. So, like, we wrote something for that as well. Like, we had, like, our internal, we automated APIs and we sort of hooked into those.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And then there are a couple of other things. Like, we had our own search, like, interface, like, from the student code, like, the Solar Lucene server. And then we thought, some people like would ask me, like I would really like to contribute to SAPedia, but I really don't know what to write. Everything's in there already. So we started a wish list. We said, okay, like if you look for something and you can't find anything, like it's not there yet, like you could say, okay, I want somebody else to write it for me. So you can click on a little link and say, I wish for this article, and it will appear on a wish list.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then also like once every year we would do like a standard feedback, a user feedback. So we wanted to know like how people like our platform and what they like and what they dislike about it. So like it's a standard like UX thing to do, like the standard questions.
Right.
And one of the feedback that we got is that people were unhappy with the content, right? And they say, hey, you guys, like great platform, but I couldn't find anything about my area in it. And when I first read that, I was really frustrated because I thought, yeah, well, duh, you're supposed to write it about, yeah, right?
Right.
Don't complain to me about it, right? And then I found out, okay, still the message hasn't really sunk in that you're supposed to write it, and that's collaborative, and that everybody can just simply edit an article. So we created some features to promote that more. Like one of them was we for those people who had never contributed, we added a little button at the lower end of each article, and it said if you're unhappy with the content of this article, please press this button. Or when you pressed it, it would give you a little pop-up would come up, and it would display the text, say, oh, hey, you know what, you're unhappy with this, and we're so sorry about that, but you yourself have never contributed. And did you know that everybody can read, and write a SAPedia article, and please feel encouraged to write. And if you got any questions, here's our FAQ, and here's our distribution list. Just send us a mail and let us know what you need. Stuff like that. It was sort of like a joke thing, yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned Kaltura at the beginning. That's interesting. I know I know that project to some extent. I've met some of the people behind it. It has to do with editing videos from the website. No, or I mean, are you doing that kind of thing? Do you have? I guess you must have video content on the wiki as well.
Yeah, that's right. We just we have we use it as the video platform for SAP. Say you've got an internal conference or anything like a tutorial or anything you want to publish it, then that's the place to publish it, and you can embed and then the SAPedia you can embed the content. It's like in YouTube, you've got this little button where you say embed video, and we've got the same for that.
Yeah, but are you doing video editing, or is Kaltura used for more than just that? Maybe I don't really know what they do.
It's just I just use it for publishing videos. We're not editing.
I see. Okay.
There. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
I could mention one thing. There's another thing. A problem that we had in the beginning is that people didn't really know how to write things. We tried to impose a structured content, right? That they say give a first explanation first, and then give related links, and people had difficulties with that. So we found this wonderful extension. You might have heard of it. It's called Page Forms. So so we integrated that. So we switched, we made a Mediawiki, we turned it into semantic Mediawiki, and we included Page Forms. So we use that for people to guide them how to write structured content.
Right.
Yeah.
And are you still using it?
We actually later on the feedback from many people was that a lot of people preferred using the markup editor directly, and they the page forms they meant that we use templates, and they said we don't really like your templates, we don't like learning your templates, we just want to use standard Mediawiki markup, and these templates are confusing us, and that was the one faction. And there was a lot of people who who just wanted a WYSIWYG editor. So and back then the VisualEditor didn't work on certain Internet Explorer versions yet, and back then Internet Explorer was heavily used within the company, so we couldn't really roll out VisualEditor.
What year was this? Do you remember?
Oh, I think it was 3 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
And eventually, we introduced VisualEditor, and then people said, in VisualEditor, all those templates, it doesn't really work for us. So, and then that's when we discontinued using it.
So I don't understand. I mean, with forms, you don't need to know that there's templates in the back end, or not necessarily back end, but on the page at all. All you see is form inputs. Where does the problem with templates come in?
The thing is, somebody before you had edited an article with forms, and then the next person would just chose markup editing, and then they would see all the then they wouldn't see the forms anymore. So we
I
offered
see. Okay.
we offered both like markup editing and form editing. I think I should have mentioned that. And so like
Yeah.
when people like use a markup editor and in an article that had been started with forms, and they also these templates, and they really didn't like that.
Yeah. I should note that now Page Forms, as of maybe the last 6 months or something, supports VisualEditor within text areas, so you can have a form and have inputs for the structured stuff, and then while still having WYSIWYG editing for everything else.
Yeah,
all in one.
I was delighted to hear that, but it was still like we still have like a lot of users who are just like markup, and they don't like the templates.
Yeah.
Still. Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
That's interesting. You've got an army of hardcore markup editors who dislike change, I guess.
Army is a big word, but I think
Okay.
like the most like dedicated editors, they're markup editors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. My guess is if anybody ever talked about adding forms to Wikipedia or something, you'd have a very similar kind of reaction from the power users. What about the benefits of semantic Mediawiki? I mean, is that something that was you sad to let go of in any way? Were you using queries, or did you consider doing queries of data, that kind of thing? Drill down.
Yeah, we tried it out. Like we also wrote some like really fancy extensions. Like we had like at some point like taxonomy was really popular at SAP. It's no longer really is, and we tried to integrate it. And we did that with semantic Mediawiki. And we thought, like we anticipated that people would start using queries and use all the advanced features, but they didn't. They weren't really interested.
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that people wouldn't go about creating their own queries, but in terms of setting up queries for people to avoid having to enter data twice, or to if using semantic drill down to be able to find some specific term or something. I don't know if that's how helpful that would be in your context, but that's, I guess, the typical use case that you use it not really for free form querying by users, but just in order to set up things that users can just click on and see.
Yeah, I don't know. It really didn't click with us. We didn't find the use case that would really justify it. I think if at some point we would integrate something like a taxonomy again, like I think we would definitely think about it. Or we might even, either that or we would look into cargo and see like whether we could use that. So either of the two. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. How many? I don't know if you actually said this. How many pages are there on the wiki now? Do you know?
I think they're about like 20,000 now.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's serious stuff. You mentioned that a big part of your job is still is encouraging people to use and especially edit the wiki. Have you done stuff like gamification or rewards programs, that kind of thing?
Yeah, we tried that. Like what we there used to be we had our own gamification platform, so we tried to avoid like dots or little stars, and we found out that didn't really work. We tried.
Yeah.
We wrote a little like a likes platform, like where you can like pages. So maybe like people like who wrote a nice article would see all those likes, but people didn't click on it.
Okay.
They didn't really like it,
okay.
right? And I don't know. I think it's I don't really know what. I think in the free world, sort of outside like a company, right? Like you would. And if you're an altruistic person, like, and you've got sort of ideals, and like you may have like a strong motivation of writing like Wikipedia articles because you're helping other people, right? I think in a corporate context, like your motivation is a bit different because then like you're paid for your daily job. You're there because you paid for it. And of course, like the first thing that you follow is your KPIs. I mean, you do what you're paid for. And
Right.
so it's different, right? Also, like a lot of people, like they don't, I don't know, like if you're a programmer, you don't necessarily like writing wiki pages, right? Because you like to program, you like to create beautiful programs,
Right.
and right, and I know help customers or make money with them, but you're not necessarily, you don't have an incentive to write that. So
Right.
I think it's also like a problem. Maybe it's like a cultural problem. I think on SAP we've got this huge helpfulness that's really great, but we also got the notion that if you're looking for information, then it's actually your job to find that. Like we're not taught that like you make yourself like known, or like you go out there and you talk about your project a lot, and you want other people to find you, and you don't hand your code and your project and your libraries on a silver platter. So in a way, we are still working like a 300 people company in Germany that SAP used to be, right? And not like this universal like 5 continents, 90,000 people company. So
Right.
so I think it's a bit of a cultural thing too.
Yeah. Yeah. That matches what I've heard from other people, that no one's found a real use for gamification, and the real motivation has to be internal from people, as opposed to getting stars or
Yeah,
likes
right.
or whatever it is.
Right. I mean, like I think it's okay if you get if you can give people reputation. I think that works externally too. Like say like at GitHub, right, or at Stack Overflow. I don't know, like if you can show other people your profile and you can say, hey, look, like what I contributed, or look at all the clever things that I wrote in Stack Overflow. I'm really the expert for a certain area.
Right.
And then you can show that off, right? You can write it on your CV, and you can show it to your, I don't know, to your mom or to your girlfriend or whatever, right? And
Right. Sure.
if you do something like that internally, and you've got like an internal reputation, it doesn't work so well, because it works only for you within the company. It doesn't really work if you, I don't know, apply for a job elsewhere and you can't show it to your people, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So, but obviously there is still, I guess you could call it altruism. That still can be a motivator. I mean, that was the motivator for you in a sense. You were frustrated, I guess, if I can put words in your mouth.
Yeah, you can say that.
You could sense that there was a lot of inefficiency, or people not being able to find information that they were looking for.
I thought there must be a better way, right? I thought, hey, why not do this, and we can work together in a better way, and why not? Hey, Mediawiki is a really cool platform, and why not give it a go? So yeah,
Right.
so
Yeah. So I mean,
I think
so
like there's I mean there's helpfulness is there, and there were like-minded people there, and and there are people. I mean, like we've got thousands of people who contributed, so that is there. It's great, but it's
okay. Yeah, I
but
wanted to
it's
ask
still
about that too. Actually, yeah.
but it's still hard. It's not something that comes naturally, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, is there any chance, would it be helpful for you if it became a requirement, if managers started requiring employees to contribute?
I'm not so sure, because like like there are people who are altruistic and who've got intrinsic motivation, and when you're told to do something, that it can sort of like kill the motivation of those people, right?
That's
So I
true.
think it's really difficult, and I think it's also more fun, like if it's a voluntary thing. That's sort of, it feels better,
Yeah.
So and also like that's if I had a choice. The other thing is that like most managers, I mean, like their job is not like to motivate people to write wiki content, right? So like if you're hey, I don't know, like you want to create business software, or you want to sell more, or you want to solve other people's problems. But like it would be hard like to find a manager who say, okay, right, everybody, like from now on, like every day I want you to write at least like do one edit in an SAPedia, right? So it would be hard
Right.
to get that kind of buy-in.
Yeah, it would be impractical to try to force some kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Activity. I guess I should have asked this before, but is SAPedia in German or in
It's in,
English? Or?
it's in English. Like
Oh, okay.
our company language is English, so we kept it in English.
Yeah. Are there people outside Germany using it and contributing to it?
Yeah, we've got this little world map, like where you can see like where people contribute to it. Like, so we've got it really all over the world. Like, of course, we've got a lot of people in the US. Like, we've got development locations and sales locations in the US. We've got people in India, in China. Like, and the other day, like a few people, like I think, contributed from Colombia and from Brazil.
Oh, wow.
So it's pretty much around the world.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I that sounds like a major benefit of having a wiki is it's pretty much impossible to communicate everything to people, spread out around the world other than with some kind of central
Well,
source.
you got to find tricks. For instance, like one idea that we had is, for instance, team assistants, right? We think that like team assistants are sometimes overlooked, but I think they're really sort of like the source of power within the team, right? Like they can access management, and they know everybody, and people often ask like a team assistant for help if they don't know what to do. So we started we called it like a team assistance training. So I got friendly with HR. And they gave us a list of all the team assistants at SAP. We wrote them a mail that we offer them a training for SAPedia, which is this new cool tool like to look up terms and like to find help with SAP. And so we ended up like doing sessions for them, rollout sessions, and like via Skype. And like I think we had 10 of those, so I think we reached about 1,500 team assistants at SAP. And that really helped like make it more popular within SAP. So, for instance, like we had one session in Spanish, and I think like that's where the Colombian colleagues came from.
Cool. This is kind of a minor question, but is there a mobile aspect to it? Can people access it from their cell phones?
Yeah, they can. Like we've got actually two possibilities to do that. Like we created our own mobile clients, like the run natively. So we have one in Swift and one in Android, and we thought we thought it would be useful, like especially for salespeople. Like say you are at a customer's and you want to really look up something really quick because like I don't know, maybe you're in a meeting with a customer and you don't know a term and you can't just have a mental block and you absolutely need to look it up. And so we decided to have it like offline so that you can absolutely count on it that it's always there. So that app like downloads like the offline content completely. I think we did it by XML or JSON. And then we've got it like mobile. But we also made the skin that we wrote, like we made it responsive with Bootstrap. So it works fairly well on an iPhone.
Yeah, okay.
But then like of course it need to be online, right?
Yeah, sure. I don't know if you need VPN access or something to get to it, but I guess there are ways to do it from a phone.
You can access it if you are. We are outside. We're available outside, but you need to be like an SAP employee. Like we've got like a special SAML identity provider, and you need to be registered there with your certificate, and then you get access to it. So you don't need VPN to do it.
Oh, okay, cool. Wow, that's really interesting. Your native apps for offline access. I guess I should be careful because maybe there already exists something like that for plugging into a standard wiki. I know there is offline capability for Wikipedia, and of course there are native apps for Wikipedia. I don't know if all that software can already be used for any wiki, or if what you've created is really, a new thing that would be helpful. So
I remember actually, I think I remember in the early 2000s, I had a Palm Pilot, and they had the entire. I think the English and the German Wikipedia on it, like offline. That was really cool.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not my original idea, right? Like other people have done that before.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, for Wikipedia, that's a big thing, but I don't know if you can just take some software, plug it into some wiki, and now you have, iPhone and Android apps. I mean, would you consider releasing any of the software you've created? Is that even a possibility as open source?
I thought about it. Like, I think a lot of it is really like SAP specific. Like, for instance, like who would want like an SAP specific skin like for his Mediawiki, right? Like with the little SAP logo in it and stuff. So
Right.
I think there's sort of like a couple of minor extensions that we did, and I thought about open sourcing. I really should give back. I think you're right.
Yeah. Okay. I was just wondering if there are any organizational blocks to that, like because it's now the intellectual property of SAP, and they don't want to release software as open source, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, I think like SAP has opened up a lot in that direction. Like there's been a lot of change. Like so I think that would be more than welcome if we did that.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, I need to talk to my manager, I guess.
Yeah. This is something I wanted to ask. This may be kind of an awkward question, maybe not, but SAP obviously has no shortage of its own software, and a lot of it has to do with data management, as you've explained. Do you feel like Mediawiki competes in any way with some of the software that SAP produces? I mean, could you have used SAP software for this site?
Oh, let me think. No, I don't really think I could have. I don't think SAP is really known for making encyclopedia software at that scale. So I did a little.
Is there anything that has some kind of wiki-like functionality among all the many applications that
we've got? There is what we call SAP Jam. So that's a collaboration software, but that's also more for teams. And it's got wiki in it, but it's not really meant as an encyclopedia. What I did consider originally was like using Confluence for SAPedia, but then I tried it out, but it lacked the flexibility, it lacked the openness, and it's not really meant for encyclopedias, right? And also, I mean, like I love Mediawiki because it's open, it's really powerful, it scales well. So like just in case like we had everybody wanted to access my pages at once, they still could. And
right.
I loved the extensibility of it. Right, it's so easy to write like extensions for it. It's beautiful.
Yeah. I mentioned before that you've never presented SAPedia at a conference or something. There's an annual event in Europe known as SMWCon, at the Semantic MediaWiki Conference. Usually it's in Germany. Obviously, since you're not using SMW, it wouldn't necessarily make sense for you to go. This is kind of a favorite topic of mine, but there has been some discussion about renaming it to EMWCon, or the Enterprise MediaWiki Conference. If it had a different name, like EMWCon, would you consider going?
I think I wouldn't. I think the name wouldn't be a decisive factor.
Oh, okay.
But I'm
so have you thought about going to SMWCon?
I'm tempted. I think like you also got this Enterprise MediaWiki event. Like I think you had one at Houston like last year, and another one coming.
Yeah,
up
there's
in
also
California.
a North American, and usually in the U.S., sometimes in Canada, it is called EMWCon. Yeah.
Yeah, that would really tempt me. So maybe I don't know. Maybe one day I'll make it.
All right. Very good. I think that's all of my questions. Is there anything else? Is there anything I missed? Anything else you want to say about SAPedia or Mediawiki?
I don't know. Like you could. I could talk about what I found hard and what I found easy with Mediawiki as such.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
In
Yeah,
enterprise
your
context,
impressions of Mediawiki.
If you think that would be valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I found the VisualEditor initially. I found it very hard to integrate. Like I found the, like that you would have like a different server for it with a password server.
Sure.
And like I found it took me a while to really understand this architecture. and it was hard for me to really get in touch with the with Mediawiki, with the developers. Like actually, I didn't manage to. I tried to reach out and I couldn't. For instance, my managers asked me, say, hey, you know, like we really like SAPedia, but we really want WYSIWYG, right? So when is it coming? And I say, well, you know, like there's a site, and they say they might release it this summer, but it's not really sure, and they've postponed it already. And so it was that was a bit. It would have been great, like if I would have had a contact or somebody like to, if there were really like stable release plans or something.
Right.
So that was, but I think that's probably changing. I think that's better.
Yeah, it's still a pain to install, but I think it's a lot smoother now than it used to be.
Okay.
Fewer problems, as far as I know.
Oh, that's great.
I should also note this actually came up in a podcast a few episodes ago with Corey Floyd, who's one of the main people in charge of it.
Yeah.
That they are talking about getting rid of the requirement for Node.js and having everything be done in PHP. So you get rid of that. That's the big headache, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that could be years from now. But I just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, another thing that is like what I find, like what my users always ask me is like, why isn't there just a create page button? You know, like they find it really unintuitive that like you have to search for an article first before you create one.
Right.
Right, that really doesn't enter the head, right? I say, well, obviously you don't want to create an article that's there already, so you need to search first. And they say, oh, yeah, now I get it. I say, oh, why isn't there a create button again? You know, like they really, that's something they really don't understand. And another feature that is often required is that people want to sort of hide the content and then like publish it with a bang. You know, it's like there's a really big event and like they want to release documentation for that on one particular date, and they don't want people to find it till then. So they want sort of like a secret editing feature that you can prepare your article and have it all ready, and then like click on a button and then that will be made visible.
Right.
So I mean, like we found several workarounds for that, but it's not something that is So that's something that they always wanted. And other than that, I mean, I mentioned already. I mean, that's the read access, right? So that always comes up. I mean, like, I always try to promote like openness. I say, well, we should have as few secrets from each other as possible, and we should make everything available. We have like a culture of openness at SAP, and we should also have it in our documentation. But some people do have a valid point why they need privacy. So yeah.
So what's an example of? Well, obviously you can't tell me the private information, but
exactly.
I mean, given that the wiki is only intended for, as an encyclopedia, what would be an example of something that would be private but still belongs in encyclopedia?
There's certain things that for legal reasons, they cannot release information before a certain date, for instance.
Oh, I see. So so again, it's an issue that you want to have be able to draft it or something, but nobody will see it until you release it. Yeah,
things like that. I mean, other things is I think like I'm not sure whether they keep that actually in SAPedia, but if you want to avoid like insider dealing, etc., certain information needs to be private, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else, or is that as far as
I don't know, maybe you can help me with that, but like one problem that always came up is that there are obviously, I mean, like even with 100,000 people, like 90,000 people, like it's you've got a very limited circle of people who want to write, and that's far less than say compared to like the Wikipedia, right? And I always thought like it's such a shame, like it doesn't really make sense like to duplicate articles. Like why should we write like an article on TCP/IP like if there's already like a wonderful article on Wikipedia, right, explaining every single aspect for it.
Right.
But there is like certain specifics like that that are only available at SAP, right? Like what does it mean at SAP? Say for instance like which IP ranges are reserved here and which areas are there and where can you look them up, etc. So I always thought whether there would be possible to have sort of like like to build like on the content of other wikis. I'd say, okay, this is this article, but like, I say, but here within my company, it also has like, you've got this contact person, and this has like a slightly different meaning, etc. So sort of like include the article, but not as a whole. I don't know. You see, like I'm really vague about it because I don't really have like the idea how to do this, right? You couldn't automatically include it because like you wouldn't know like whether the name would be the right one, whether it would be the right article, and you also probably wouldn't want to include everything because like I don't know.
Well, yeah, right. Yeah, the name of the article is the smallest problem.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's a very complex problem. I think to make use of a set of content that itself is changing, and try to use part of it or a modified part of it or something. Yeah, no, I think all the other problems you listed are easier to solve than that one.
And there's a similar problem with like private knowledge. For instance, like sometimes you have, for instance, I don't know, you know somebody who is sort of your buddy at the company, and he will do you or he owes you a favor. So like on a certain subject matter, like this would be your contact, but this contact is only for you or for certain people, but not for everybody, right? So in my SAPedia article, I couldn't say put this person there because then that's for everybody to see, right? And he only owes me that favor, or he only would do it for me. Or like there's a technology and I keep forgetting certain things about it, so I sort of have similar little notepad and say, okay, you have to press these and these keys to make that and that happen, but that's only valuable for me. So I always thought, like, would there be some sort of like an extension which would be only visible for me, right? Like where I'd say, okay, I've got this, there's a certain section of an article that's for everyone, and then maybe there's a little private bit where I say, okay, and these are my private little notes that I have, and that they're only for me in my personal network, is like in a different one.
Right.
Do you know whether this is doable, or has anybody tried that before? Would it make sense?
Well, you can do things with annotation. I've actually been looking into that somewhat. There's various, sort of like post-it notes, like the kind of the thing you can do in Google Docs. And then if you're using an outside annotation system, those usually have a lot more permissions capabilities. So you can I guess define a group of people who can see whatever note you created.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would work for your case to store all that kind of content as annotations.
Yeah, I know. That's also like the network of people, Like I think like if you switch departments, like you hand your job over to somebody else, then it's usually what's your most important asset is usually the network of people you know. And I still haven't found a way to sort of let the new person who takes over my job inherit that network, right? So I always thought, like, could I integrate that in SAPedia somehow? And I still haven't come up with something, but that's just an idea floating around. Maybe that's not so interesting, like for all your listeners.
Well, yeah, no, it's all interesting. It's all stuff that I think anyone setting up a wiki internally has to deal with or think about to some extent. Deciding what content goes there and how best to structure it and cool.
All right.
Great. Yeah, this is really good, and I'm glad we've gotten the word out. This gave us an opportunity to talk about this very interesting use of Mediawiki.
Well, my pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Okay. That's it. Well, yeah. Thank you very much, Jens.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
This has been another episode of Between the Brackets. I want to again thank my guest Jens Steckhan for giving us an exclusive look at SAPedia. Thanks to all of you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next time.